We have Marissa Hamilton and Elizabeth Harris. Are you in here yet? Great. If you would please come to the table, have a seat, give your name, and just a very brief 10 seconds what you intend to show. And if you would, the hour grows late. We're at 3 o'clock already. So if you can keep it to no more than 10 minutes, we'd appreciate it.
Absolutely, 7 minutes.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Liz Harris, and what I intend to show is I actually am the one who brought Bobby Piton into this, and I only brought him into this on Friday. So if you can imagine what he can do with a week's worth of time, it would be amazing. And I really hope that someone looks at hiring him, or he might volunteer his services, I don't know, at looking at all the challenged states and all the states in the United States of America to see what states were affected. Okay, thank you very much. Again, my name is Liz Harris. I reside in Chandler, Arizona, which is in Maricopa County. I am the owner of a small business, a real estate brokerage. In December 2019, I was asked to consider a run for AZ State House of Representatives. At that time, I knew politics was divisive, and I gladly took on the challenge and ran an extremely clean campaign. I lost by a very small margin. When I went to vote on Friday, October 30th, 2020, everything seemed to be safe and secure, and I was told that my vote would be picked up the following day at noon. I even did a Facebook Live to ensure the residents of Arizona that we have a safe and secure voting system. However, with what I personally witnessed, the testimony we're hearing today, and the research I have buried myself in since the election day, I heavily doubt that Arizona has a secure system. When I question the events, I am frequently told there is nothing we can do about it except fix the legislation over the next 2 years to remedy these issues. I believe that is what we were told in 2018. On election day, I visited 8 voting centers. Each voting center had approximately 2 people in blue shirts marked poll observers. They were all uniformed and all Democrat. Interestingly, when I and others spoke to them, the majority was from California. Some were even admitted attorneys. Gee, California, wasn't that the same state that injected much of the $1.8 million in attack ads against my running mates and me, which is unprecedented for a state election? The observers remained in close proximity to the 75-foot line and were sure to tell volunteer Republicans when they felt they were violating the 75-foot rule. At one location, a poll observer quickly left his station to bring out the election inspector, who accused me of yelling at voters. When I told him I believed he was mistaken, he went to harass 2 young Republican college students who were handing out voter guides outside the 75-foot markings. The election inspector then continued to tell these young gentlemen that they were harassing voters. I came to their defense as a witness that they were doing no such thing. This confrontation lasted well over 5 minutes. It honestly felt like the entire event was orchestrated just to intimidate. At another polling station, undisclosed location, someone deliberately removed over a dozen of my signs and my 2 running mate signs and left them down so they were not in the voters' line of sight. No big deal. Nearly 60 other signs were perfectly positioned. My running mate and I reinstalled the signs. I then learned that this polling center was also the receiving station on election night. This meant that many voting centers within my legislative district sent a day and a half worth of ballots to a polling station that was clearly biased against us. It was an odd location to centralize ballots, access was not easy, and the lighting was extremely poor. Knowing the bias against us, the faith that I had in the Arizona system began to diminish. While I was visiting the polls, I can testify to 3 polling locations that basically broke down in the middle of people voting. And what happened was those lines of people were sent home, not sent home, but sent to other locations to go vote elsewhere. That was all questionable. All sorts of stories, they ran out of ink, they ran out of, nothing made sense. Learning that we did indeed use Dominion software in Arizona, and that Eric Coomer sold it in October of 2019 and was involved in the training process, I further lost confidence in the integrity of our election. Eric Coomer clearly identifies as an anti-Trump Antifa apologist as seen on his social media pages dating back to 2015. All of these pages have since been removed. Considering that on my campaign trail, I was heavily attacked by Antifa, including a really bad death threat, which I had a nightmare about last night. Once again, I have little confidence in the state's discernment of who they select to do business with. Several days after the election, I asked the AZ GOP for a sample of voters over the age of 90. Using a nationally known background checker, I found a third deceased, a third where I could not find a record of the person existing or a social security number tied to the person, and then a third who were alive and well. This led me to ask for a larger sample size. I got a really large sample size of 30,600. Fellow concerned citizens performed these checks with me and found not only deceased voters at a rate of 0.1%. Now realize that number is going to go down, and I don't think deceased voters is our issue in Arizona, but we did 3 audits, and actually on some we did a quadruple audit. And what we did is we made sure before we classified a person as dead, we looked for the obituary. I mean, we did everything except visit the tombstone. This was thorough. But more importantly than the dead voters was the voter whose identity we could not verify or find a record of. And that consistently ran at 10%. Now, if you take that 10% and you look at 3.3 million voters, that is right in line with what Bobby Piton just presented to you. Multiple cases of voters who voted twice. Again, that number is not that large. 22,903 ballots that have receipt dates prior to the ballots being sent out. Now, I just want to say, very often we hear, oh, those are the military ballots. But then we have an additional 4,854 ballots that were received 10/7 and 10/8. Now, we all know the ballots mailed on 10/7. My household received 1 on 10/8 and 2 on 10/9. And we have 2,000 votes, which uses an address that is a vacant lot. When we examined that address, it turned out to be an area of Phoenix where homeless tents are erected. However, it was not 2,000 tents. Of course, the homeless have every right to vote, but the numbers are overwhelming. This leads me to question, was the state of Arizona in any way negligent when they assured the Arizona residents that we have a next to perfect mail-in ballot system because we have been at it for over 2 decades? I requested that a friend, Bobby, look at the data to help me decipher exactly where, if any, of the abnormalities were occurring, and he had much to report. That 30,000 was a lot to go through. You can imagine what it would be to go through 3.3 million. With Bobby's report, he has now identified for me 450,000, and our auditing team is more than happy to start going through those 450,000 voter registrations and people who voted to decipher which of these ballots is fraudulent. For us to certify this election at 11 a.m. this morning and allow our electors to pass the Arizona vote to Biden based on all the information presented here today is an absolute travesty without a solid investigation. Thank you very much.
Ms. Harris, I've got one question for you, and we're going to move on to the next witness. You have got a workforce that is committed to doing this. What is your estimation on how long it would take to work through a sample of, shall we say, 30% of your highest number?
It's got to get done before December 14th.
I'm very aware of that, but
so to verify that a voter doesn't exist, you actually have to go to the residence and basically, in my opinion, get a recording from the person who resides there stating that they are not alive or that that person has never lived there. You need proof that there's a murder, you need a murder weapon, and you need a witness to the murder. So we can do this in 7 days.
that's the answer I was looking for. Thank you very much, ma'am.
Thank you. God bless America.
Would you please see to it that Mayor Giuliani has your information? Thank you.